Hello everybody and welcome back to LMM for part 2 of these videos taking a look at some of the abandoned steam locomotives in Poland. For those of you who haven't seen part 1, that's coming up on the screen now. We started our adventure here at Leszno in Poland, at what was once a working depot which is now shut, and this features a lineup of abandoned locomotives sat awaiting their fate. These engines most likely will never steam again. And having had a look at all of these engines, we were in time to see OL 4969, one of Poland's few still working steam engines, working the daily passenger service between Leszno and Wolsztyn. Now, in the last video, I said that all of this had now come to an end, and I'm happy to tell you guys that actually I had lied, and the steam service has once again returned with PT 4765, this one doing the bulk of the work. However, when I visited, it was Shedmate OL 49 number 69 that was in charge of the passenger service, and the crew invited me to join them on the footplate for this, the last regular mainline working steam in Europe. The fact that it's come back from the precipice is nothing short of amazing, and I was truly honoured to be on this thing as we made our way from Leszno towards Wolsztyn, which, as many of you know, is the home of the depot of the locomotives that operate this service, the last bastion of regular mainline steam services in Europe. The depot and roundhouse are also a museum, boasting a collection of working engines and those which are preserved and looked after. But outside of the museum's gates, there are a number of engines which are unused, abandoned and uncared for, and these will be the subject of today's video. But first, before we feel down about all these abandoned engines, and to help pass the time as we make our way from Leszno to Wolsztyn, a word about this video's sponsor helping to keep steam alive in the UK, and that is, of course, the Foxfield Railway, offering steam and diesel train rides through the heart of the Staffordshire countryside, a perfect day out for families and enthusiasts alike, and boasting a fleet of working steam and diesel locomotives full of enthusiastic and friendly volunteers working hard to ensure that you have a wonderful day out experiencing and learning about the county's rich industrial heritage and getting to see and experience it with your own eyes, and immerse yourself in living history, like the recently restored vintage carriages, or for a treat, how about one of our cream teas, which I can vouch for are delicious. And remember, for exclusive news, events and early access to tickets, sign up to the newsletter. The link's over in the video description, and remember to click you found us through LMM. And with that, on with the video. Having arrived in Wolsztyn, we come face to face opposite the station with the first of our abandoned locomotives. As I've mentioned, I've been coming here for several years, and these have pretty much always been here. Mostly, certainly the two OLs down there have. This is PT 47112, which again, before my time, but this was one of the regular performers out here at Wolsztyn, which since its ticket expired has just been pushed here and been left with pieces robbed off it to help keep the other PT 47 number 65 in traffic. And it's just seeing the OLs and the freight locomotives, the T's and the O's, T being freight, O being stopping passenger, is one thing. But to see an express passenger engine, something this big, this is a 282, a Mikado just sat rotting away, it is heartbreaking. Now, obviously, this one has had certain bits taken off it. As I said, the coupling rods and the con rods are missing. I think it possibly even had a driving set of wheels swapped out with the other PT. And lots of other little bits have been stolen to keep the other ones going. But it is substantially complete and looks in better cosmetic conditions than the other ones. Oh, it's just a phenomenally weird thing seeing an engine like this, a big express passenger hauling engine, just sat rotting away. Here even the slippers have been stolen, so it's now just been packed in there with wood to hold it together. Next up in the abandoned lineup is this, which is another one of either the TY2s or the TY42s. I honestly don't know which one it is because it's lost all of its identification. It's just looking a little bit sad, isn't it? Again, still got its coupling rods, the con rod's gone on to something else, and various other bits have been stolen off it. It's just looking a little bit sad, really, isn't it? That's such an impressive looking machine as well. The other thing to remember about these big things is they were doing revenue earning freight until not that long ago. It's certainly within living history that these things were actually working, pulling freight wagons and earning a living. Problem is obviously that with the small driving wheels, they're not really suitable for doing the passenger service. They've got the high acceleration, but they can't make the top speed needed to run it. Also, I can't get in the cabs of this because there are big signs that say no entry on these, so that's fair enough, and I won't clamber over that too much. The Kriegs are also fitted with these rather chunky air compressor pumps for the brakes, which are much bigger than the standard pumps that the rest of the Polish fleet have. Obviously, certain things have been removed to go onto other things. There's a pipe there, which was the overflow of the injector, I think, that's gone, or the steam feed in for it, possibly. Then whatever used to hang there, it's all just been used on other stuff to keep other ones running. This one has also suffered the fate of having a buffer cannibalised to go onto something else. But it's just sat here in more or less, well, semi-disassembled state. So this has moved, because this wasn't here last time I was here. The one that was here, however, was the OL behind me over here. This is OL 49. I think the tender says it's number 60, although I've got a feeling that maybe we saw 60 back in Leszno. So I don't know. It's one of the OLs. It's always sat here. It's always looked particularly scabby. This one has been robbed for bits more than the others, particularly the ends for the valves. They've come off. The crosshead's still here, but all the rods, connecting rods, everything gone. Most of the fittings are removed or broken. This one has had an awful lot robbed. I've never seen this looking any better than this. It's always looked quite rough and just forgotten about. Oh well, the injector's actually still in place on this one, the driver's side one. The pipework's still here. But yeah, it's substantially complete, minus the steps, and I can't get through the gap up there, so definitely can't get up into this one. And looking very, very tired. In fact, you can see part of the roof has collapsed in there as well. So just would really benefit from being undercover. And I think you can see over the clack on this one, on the side, has had the side taken off it. So that's the delivery pipe there and the clack. That's been taken off, as has the valve. Oh no, isn't it? The delivery valve's still there. It's just the valve, the shut off the clack, has been removed there. It's so weird to be, at this point in time, to be able to stand next door to 3 locomotives which are just forgotten about and just abandoned. But that's not all the abandoned engines that are actually in Wolsztyn. If we head up that way a bit more, we see a whole group more of them. One of the weird things about the Kriegs are these tenders that were built apparently to save material. They're easy to make, just a constant welded round piece. Oh, look at the moss. It's growing quite happily in what was left of it. It's so weird just to be able to walk amongst these things that's effectively just stored. That's just strange. And sit and kind of appreciate them and all the stories that they have to tell and everything they could have done once upon a time and now just sitting ignored. It's heartbreaking. Confusingly, there's also this OL tender which has had the sides cut out for I don't know what reasons why, and I don't know what it's off. It's just there. But there we go, that's an extra random tender that's being had a random bit. I assume something had rotted away on one of the other tenders, so they had to cut it off. But I really don't know. So we've now changed our location up to be opposite the depot here at Wolsztyn. So these are technically part of the museum. They're museum locomotives. Despite all appearances, it's another TY2 or 42. I can't tell you which one it is because it has lost all of its identification. And it is one of the more sorry looking examples of the fleet. It's just very, very tired. This one has sat here in this location since I came to Poland in 2010. It's always been sat basically here. I don't think it has moved. It's surprisingly complete. Again, with all of them, just for ease of moving them around, the connecting rod has been removed, but the coupling rods remain in situ. It's substantially complete. At least there are various little fittings that have moved. And if we go over to look at the cab, well, the cab is pretty Spartan, including no floor. Out of everything that we've seen so far on my little explore, the thing that is least likely to return to operational condition, at least here at Wolsztyn, is the TY5 and the TY51, just because they are far too heavy. They are gigantic locomotives with a far heavier axle loading than anything else that you'll see around here. Massive, great freight, very impressive things. But this one, it's very, very unlikely to ever see this run again, which is tragic, really. Very, very sad. Often it's really weird things that disappear, like the gasket in between there, just for the steam feed in for the driver's side injector. It's just a strange thing to disappear. Have a gander and see what's left on the footplate of this. Actually, well, one thing we can see is it's definitely been hard shunted at some point, and the metal part that goes over the top has gone underneath and buckled all that. The floor here has pretty much corroded. The injector, amazingly, for the fireman's side, is still on it, as are most of the valves to the manifold. The regulator handle is still in place. The gauge frames are gone. The reverse is still there. All the train brake apparatus is gone. Drain cocks are still there. There's a lot of it's missing, and the cab obviously is completely and utterly knackered. Can we see? Is that safe to stand on? Probably not. So what's left in here? No, that's been locked shut. What's really, really sad is things like this one not running. Currently in Poland, they have 2 locomotives in ticket. And so realistically, this isn't high on the list of stuff to ever see running again. And in my lifetime, it's unlikely that I'll ever see a Polish version of this ever doing anything. The tender of the TY5 is quite strange. It kind of comes out like panniers on the side of the chassis. It's a weird looking thing. Real weird. This one is another TY42 or TY2. I don't know again because it's lost its identification. And as I've said before, it is literally whether it was built during the war or built with spare parts after the war. But you might be wondering why there's so many of these locomotives. It's because there are of all the cruise locks, the 3 main types, there are over 15,000 different units built, which is why they outnumber anything else here, including the Polish design stuff. There are many of these still kicking around with no real future at all. Quite amazing things, these. They were designed to have a very short lifespan. They were designed for the war. They weren't expected to last long. They weren't expected to last for an overhaul. And they're still sitting here, still strong, which is quite amazing because they're a very light axle load. I think it's 15-ton axle loading on these. They're quite outstanding. Oh, it turns out this is TY2 406, so that was a TY2. Once again, obviously lost the connecting rod so it can be easily moved. It's worth thinking just how long has it been since this one actually turned a wheel under its own power. It really looks like it's been sat here for an awfully long time. And it says don't go in the cab, so we'll just clamber up. And there's a very good reason for not going in the cab. It's the floor does not exist, and it is pretty barren in there. A couple of things on the manifold. The injector's missing. Reverser's still there. Sounding control's still there. Regulator handle, but yeah, most of that's definitely gone. And the cab is, well, it looks like it had some newer wood at some point, but yeah, that's all pretty grim down there. Behind me, this is TY45 379, another one of the candidates for locomotives that's very unlikely to ever run again, because frankly, it's too big to do the service here. And one of the other ones that basically hasn't moved from being around here forever. Some of these locomotives were stored for a number of years over at the cement works about 2 kilometres that way, where they were just, well, dumped. But they've been brought back here to be part of the Wolsztyn collection, but it's still very much a dumped locomotive. Again, it's a TY, so 210 and a very large thing. I don't think it's been robbed too many of its individual components, but anything that had use for other locomotives has been taken off it. And it does, again, like a lot of them, look very sorry for itself. Another engine that was based at Poznan and Zabrzeżyn has this one's got a door that's also been locked up. Have a look in there. Oh, it's actually quite complete. The regulator's there, a lot of the valves there. Gauge frame fittings are there, but the gauge is missing itself. I imagine the injector is, yes, gone. Electrical box in disarray. It's not too bad, this cab, actually. So nestled around here, this is TY43. So again, it's the smaller boiler version of the TY42, built in Poland after the war with leftover bits. But we've kind of seen it, again, missing various components, various little bits and bobs. But I mean, we've seen many cruise locks so far this trip that it's not really going to get any different. The main thing to note is, yeah, Powers on the Wolsztyn. Let's have a quick gander. Oh yeah, much the same, much missing the regulator handle, tiny little thing on a crank there, but yeah, there's Interesting, different injector, that's still there. Mainly because I don't know anything else running here that has that injector, probably the only reason. Walking along here, we have the third of the PT47s around here. This is number 106, which is, well, somewhat complete, and about the same as the others. This one remains intact with its connecting and coupling rods, and actually is in, I think, the better state of all of them. There is the other TY43 just sat here, which has been written up as something, which I don't know, but it's sat just there with its cab looking in, again, pretty stripped, but fairly decent state. And then if we nip in between here, we get the final look. This is the TY51, the biggest engine that's here. Quite a hunking brute. This thing will probably never run again, or certainly not in this condition, just because it is huge and weighs a ton. You can see it's had a bit of love given to it on recent years, a bit of new paint, but that is about it. This one literally sits where the last fire was dropped and it's not moved since, and that is absolutely tragic. Fire was dropped and it was left, and this is where it's sat ever since. Clambering up into the cab, see that a lot of it again, and this is in fact still here. Valve, regulator, various bits of pipework. The injector itself, I think, is missing. The steam brake is missing, but there's a fair substantial amount of stuff that's still in here. Also, this one would have had the automatic coal thrower. That's a screw thread that would throw the coal into the firebox. And so that brings us to the end of this video, looking at abandoned locomotives here in Poland. And I know that your first reaction may well be outcry that these wonderful machines have been left to rot and waste. But the important thing to take from this is that they are still here. They haven't been cut up. They haven't been sent to the scrapyard. They're just disused stock, parked up on a siding and forgotten about. If the mood was to change and somebody wanted to restore them, many of them are candidates that would be prime to return to operational condition. Obviously, they would all need a significant sum of money to be spent on them to bring them back up to standard, but it could still happen if the mood here in Poland was to change. But they are still here, which is the important thing to take from it, and to be able to walk around locomotives basically left since they finished service is an amazing experience, and something I highly recommend doing, because I can't think of many other places in the world where you can still wander around locomotives that aren't technically preserved. Because again, these are PKP, the State Railway locomotives. They're just not needed. So with that, thanks for watching this video, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments which one of these you'd like to see return to steam the most. And with that, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And if you have enjoyed this video, how about clicking somewhere over here for some of our other rail-related videos. Ta-ra. Oh, there is no floor in there. Oh. In fact, there's nothing in there at all.